The difference between, I think, the entrepreneurship and people really starting businesses and where they grow, I think is kind of interesting because the numbers as a whole around the world, you look at about 300 or so million people trying to start their own businesses every year. 300 million people. And that averages out to be about 137,000 a day. And so the numbers of businesses that stay on and grow and become, employers of many people and creating a livelihood for others is daunting. But what separates them, I think, is also the drive of the individual. And I've always thought of myself of having the drive because I've told people that I've come from nothing. Grew up in the city of Cleveland. My dad left when I was 4, and I always had this inner drive of being something or somebody. And it really took me until my 40s to realize that I actually came from a very elite class of people, and the wealth of my family has to do with the unconditional love of my mom and my sister, and now my wife and my children. And so I was trying to dig through and keep on, in my own head, thinking, what is the driving factor? And Dan really nailed it when he talked about partly the disorganization of things. True entrepreneurs thrive in chaos, and they thrive in the idea that there is organization, disorganization, and then reorganization. And to be able to kind of float almost seamlessly between all those different stages are pretty interesting. But when I actually really do look back at most of the people that you study other entrepreneurs and other business tactics, and it really boils down to 3 different things. And those are excellence, contribution, and meaning. The idea that regardless of the arduous tasks that you have to take on and all the grunt work of chief bottle cook and washer and all across the board, you also understand that there is a purpose behind this, and that the contributions you make are beyond the company itself, and that you do make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes as you go along. But the meaning part of it, the excellence, contributions, and meaning, I think is really something that goes far beyond money. It's about advocating timeless core values and understanding that when people come to work for you, you sit them down and say, when you leave this company, and you will at some point probably leave this company, I want to ensure that you leave as a better professional than when you first walked in. Whether they're 15 years younger than you or 10 years older than you, it doesn't really matter. And for those of us who have done the startups, you had to have the uncomfortable feeling of letting people go, whether they be 10 years younger than you or 10 years older than you. And I will tell you that if you do it right over time, the people that you do let go will say, that's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my lifetime. Because you showed them respect, but they knew and you knew that on Sunday nights they had a pit in their stomach, that they didn't want to come back the next morning because they weren't succeeding. And so coming to those realizations and separating yourself so that your company can grow, I think are a really big part of it. And I also came to the realization that even when I'm 95, I'll be sitting in some assisted living center and I'll probably be organizing the day's activities that day. Because that's just the realization when you look in the mirror that sometimes you just embrace the idea of being the bus driver versus just the bus rider. I think back of, my mom tells me stories of Wally Sitkowski and John Egan who followed me through kindergarten and did everything that I kind of did. And you just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, that's our gang. But as time goes on, you realize that when the responsibilities are doled out and you become the yearbook editor or the president student body or whatever it might be, you start really saying there's something beyond the normal course. And so I think those are some of the things, Chris, that really do separate at the very beginning between how you just become an ordinary entrepreneur, one of those 300 million people, and those who can actually grow a business to some significance.